Welcome to a brand new episode of the Bold Take Podcast. I'm Austin Hill. With me, as always, is Austin Waiter, and we're back talking college football action after a week off, unforeseen circumstances on my part, which was kind of a tough week to miss for the first college football playoff rankings, and a little bit more of I'll say it, a little bit more of a dull slate this past week. Still some fun stuff that we're going to talk about, but not the glitz and the glam and the even our top 10 matchup was kind of one-sided
Yeah.
uh, this past weekend. So it was a tough week to miss, but we're back and ready. And for us, this is going to be a marathon, recording two episodes in the same day. For you, it won't
Mhm.
feel like that, as the episodes may even come out on separate days. I'm not exactly sure, obviously, how that'll come. But for us, it's back to back. It's going to be a little bit of action, but good to be back, and I'll just kick us right into our first game here with college football. And that was our Big 12 matchup. BYU ranked number 7, Texas Tech ranked number 8, coming into a clash in Lubbock with, kind of that top position in this Big 12 on the line. And safe to say, Texas Tech kind of answered the bell and showed, even after that one kind of sloppy loss against Arizona State, they are still not to be messed with in this Big 12.
Yeah. Well, my takeaway entering the game was okay, it's simple for me. Texas Tech's got the best rushing defense in the country. BYU's got a pretty solid running game. BYU can run the football. I like their chances. 27 carries for 67 yards. Couldn't get the ground game going. Barrett Bachmeyer had to throw it 38 times in the game. That's not the recipe for success for BYU offensively. And ultimately, that's what this game ended up being what it was. Even with that, Texas Tech still left several points on the board. They turned it over multiple times in this game where this could have been an even worse score and been even worse. But major takeaway, like I said, BYU couldn't run the football in this game. Texas Tech handled business. Their offense just had to get double-digit points, and they added fine. Once they got to 29, it felt pretty confident that they were going to handle business. So a good win for them. And this Big 12 continues to get interesting, Austin. Obviously, we have some other stuff we'll talk about with that in a little bit. But yeah, this Big 12 gets really interesting with some of the top teams in the conference. And Texas Tech, I'll say it again, which will probably screw them over. I will say it again. They look like the most talented team in the Big 12.
Yeah, I agree. Last time you said that they lost to Arizona State. We'll see what happens this coming weekend.
Yeah,
Well,
we'll
look,
see.
Indiana heads to Beaver, faces off against Penn State, and boy, does this look like an upset brewing. We're talking about what after halftime, 17-7.
I mean,
Got
yeah.
got to 20-7, I believe, before Indiana really started to get this thing going. Uh, the comeback, they're losing. It's all over the place. But this last drive by Fernando Mendoza, look, wasn't his prettiest game, wasn't Indiana's best game. But that last drive tells you everything you need to know about Fernando Mendoza and this Indiana offense. He was surgical, he was precise, he was accurate. Throws to the sideline. Look, he didn't just get completions, he got great deep completions to the sideline. Absolutely had his way in this game. Uh, and then obviously the incredible catch and touchdown, which I could not get enough of. And I'll say this much. On the phone with a good buddy of ours, good friend of the podcast, Trevor Renfro, calls me during this game. We're chatting during this last drive. And we just both have to say, look, great catch, all-time great catch to win this game. All-time great officiating to make
Yes.
that call
Yeah.
on the field. His eyes, as soon as he saw the ball in his hands, dropped straight down. You can watch his head straight down to the feet where he
Yeah.
can see exactly which foot touches when. I was so impressed. And in the last couple of years in college football, where we've been kind of questionable about officiating, I know mostly ACC is where we've really hit it hard the last couple
Right.
of years,
Right.
where it's
Yeah.
really been kind of embarrassing and questionable. But in the last couple of years, where officiating's been, it was nice to see somebody do it textbook, how they teach it. Balls in his hands, where are his feet?
Yeah. Let me just say my reaction to it watching the replay. I was like, "There's no way." And then
Agreed.
I hear Joel Klatt say, "Watch his left foot." I'm like, "What the heck are you talking about? His right foot clearly come." Oh, it was
Yeah.
like one of those where I was like, "What are you talking about? That right foot's clearly coming down." Oh my gosh. So it was a fair reaction there, but absolutely. I'm more impressed with Indiana, ironically, from this game than I was entering it. And that being, yeah, Indiana's been great, dominating everybody. Haven't really had a whole ton of adversity this year. Had that adversity in a stadium full of 105 fans, having to go the length of the field, no timeouts. Mendoza gets sacked first play of the drive, and you think, man, that might have just sealed it right there. Second and long now. Penn State pressure's picked up the last couple of drives. Bang, throws a dot down middle of the field for the first down. Another deep pass play, another one. And then a couple incompletions and that throw into the back of the end zone. Like you and Trevor said, I give that official credit. Because if he would have called it incomplete, I'd be like, okay, very valid. I mean, there's no way you could
Yeah.
see that foot coming down, but somehow he did. So um, I just feel bad for Penn State fans. This is their be like, you know what? This year's been bad. We're going to beat Indiana at home. This can be our positive takeaway from the year. And then the takeaway instead is seeing one of the best catches I've seen shoot in a long time. I'm trying to think of a lot more catches where I've looked at and said, what?
The
Like
only,
that. So, I mean, it was awesome.
the only catch I can think of that maybe comes close in the last couple of years, and I still don't think it does because we're talking about this game being a game-winning catch, like had to
Right.
get your feet down, third and goal situation. Not to mention the stakes just being third down. I mean, this is
Yeah.
fourth and goal if he doesn't get this. The only other catch I can think of that's been really great like that Marvin Harrison Jr. catch on the sideline where he like nearly snaps his leg in half.
Yes.
To also back foot down on that one. That's the only thing I can think of that maybe comes close, but again, wasn't for a touchdown, nowhere near the same kind of stakes. Just an all-time great play.
Yeah.
Um, Another game to talk about here in the Big 12 as we're kind of trying to figure out who's going to be competing in the next couple of weeks, who's not. Iowa State gets a big win against TCU, a team I thought might kind of roll in this game and continue to try and angle themselves in a position. Now you got BYU with a loss. Maybe you can try to work your way up higher. And ultimately, this game was kind of ugly.
Yes, it
Um,
was.
this was tough to watch. With YouTube TV stealing ESPN from me right now, I was definitely forced to watch a lot of Fox and CBS games. So this was a game it was like my only option to watch, and I didn't want to watch it. Josh Hoover was throwing interceptions like nobody's business. This was a turnover fest. It ended up being kind of fun to watch at the end, a 3-point finish, but it was not great football for either side in this ball game.
No, it wasn't. I mean, it really wasn't a good game for three quarters. And then you have TCU score that touchdown to go up 17-6, and you think, okay, ball game there. Because I mean, no offense has really done much. You look at that. But then Iowa State moved it down the field, got the touchdown to make it a one possession game. And then that phenomenal punt return there that led to the touchdown late in the game. That punt return was awesome. And for Iowa State in a season where, you know, just not a lot has gone right for them in this like second half of the season. It's nice to get a win like this and continue to make these Big 12 standings interesting. My gosh, like I said, I've talked about for a while, BYU and Cincinnati have a collision course where they're facing off in a couple of weeks. That will probably ultimately determine who that second team will be in the Big 12 championship. But it's a good win here for Iowa State just to get some mojo after what's been a rough stretch.
Yeah, I'm with you. Let's talk about another quarterback in the Big Ten that I think, in my opinion, improved their draft stock, even though they didn't play maybe the best game of the season so far. And that's Dante Moore and these Oregon Ducks. This is
Mm-hmm.
another kind of gritty, not super pretty game between Iowa and Oregon. But just kind of the way these teams traded blows at the end of this game, I was really impressed with. You get the Oregon score to go up late. Then Iowa drives the field. in an awesome drive and scores. And then Oregon's like, hey, you just need three after you get the stop on the 2-point conversion, which I want to ask you if you know the ruling on this. Had that towel hit the football and interfered with the football on the 2-point conversion, uh, would that have been legal? I think surely not, right?
I don't. It was close. It was hard for me to tell live, and also the weather really didn't help with this game
Yeah.
overall. That didn't help. But I kind of agree with you. But ultimately, it
It
ended
didn't
up.
matter because
Yeah.
it didn't touch the football,
Right.
and the guy was pretty clearly out. But I
Yeah.
could see somebody like praising it. They were like, "What a heads up play!" One, no, it's not because instead of playing coverage defense, you threw your towel and gave up what should have been 2 points.
Yeah.
Um, because I'll just say this: he just turns around when he sees the ball and throws his towel. Doesn't make an effort to go get the ball whatsoever. I mean, I couldn't believe my
Yeah.
eyes watching the replay. I just don't know how you praise that. And two, again, I think if that hits the football, surely it's a flag
You know,
and we're getting the
I
ball.
honestly think, you talking about you don't know how to phrase it. I'm sure the officials looked at it like, did you see that?
Yeah,
Was that what I
yeah,
thought it was? I'm sure that might have been the thinking there. They're like, well, they didn't get it. So it's just like, what? I'm sure that's the thinking that was going on in their heads with that.
yeah. I agree. And then Oregon, look, you know what you need, and to go and drive the field. Dante Moore, look, this is where I say improved his draft stock. He made the prettiest throw I
Oh my
maybe have ever
gosh.
seen. He
Woo!
knew where the guy was going to be. You talk about chemistry and you talk about knowing the routes your guys are going to run. He knew that guy was going to be there. He threw it while this guy's draped in coverage. And even when the ball got there, he wasn't particularly opened. It was just the perfect spot to get right between the helmet and the shoulder of the corner and right into his receiver's hands. It was one of the pretty. And once that play was completed, run the clock down as much as you want and kick a field goal because they were well inside of field goal range after that throw.
Yeah, well, and I'll just say this. This was a game I've talked about on another show I did this week. This was a trap game. I'm like, Oregon, if Oregon can win this game playing Iowa style of ball, they've got my ultimate respect because playing Iowa football is not for everybody. If you
Yeah.
play Iowa's game, it's hard to beat them. And I thought when Iowa scored that touchdown late in the game, I'm like, they got them. They got them late. They played Iowa football. They made it ugly. Wasn't pretty. They're going to find a way to beat Oregon in this game. Then you had Oregon do, couple quick completions, try running the ball, nothing really working. And then they get to midfield. And like you talked about it with Dante Moore hitting that throw. Like I said, that was an incredible throw. I don't to this day I don't know. Like even looking back at the replays, I'm like, how is that not deflected away by the Iowa defender there? I mean, drops it right in the bucket. Um, and then I will say I liked them kind of trying to throw the ball because in that weather, I'm sure it was no guaranteed money from field goal from where they were at. So I kind of respect them still trying to get it
Yeah.
because if you can't score the touchdown, don't even make it come down to the kicker. But ultimately, able to get the win. So I respect it for Oregon to go in and play that style of football play Iowa's game against them and come out with a win there in November. That's a tough place to play in November.
Yeah. Pair up a couple SEC games here. A&M and Missouri, a clash where I think A&M is kind of proving again and again that they're look like the best team in the SEC right now. They're going to be a tough team to beat with everything they've done this season. And then Auburn, look, they gave Vandy a fight. I think this Auburn team has been a good team this year. They've just played better teams in the SEC. But ultimately, you see it with Pavia, you see it with this Vanderbilt team. They just get it done in overtime. It is so hard to beat these Commodores right now.
Yeah. I'll first touch about the A&M Missouri game. I thought in order to win, Missouri had to slow down the A&M run game. They really couldn't. That ultimately led to A&M really kind of opening the door there. And plus, Marcel Reed was efficient. I give Marcel Reed credit, didn't turn it over. Very good completion percentage. He did good. And then for Auburn, obviously, this is the first game. I don't think the Hugh Freeze thing happened last week, so we didn't really get to talk about that whole
Yeah,
debacle. The only thing I'll add is it was just a matter of when, not if. It was a matter of when with that firing. So I'll just leave it at that. But they came in the new play callers. I want to know what the heck Hugh Freeze was doing with that offense when he was there. Because first game coordinator coming in, this Auburn offense looked great. against a very solid Vanderbilt defense. Like they were just running up and down the field on them. I'm like, what was Hugh Freeze doing with this offense? Like, my gosh, what are we doing here? Um, but the thing that helps, Vandy has some grit to him. Great response in the second half, and then in overtime, getting the defensive stop. Man, talk about it with Penn State and with Auburn. Just some heartbreaking finishes this year where they just couldn't get them to go their way. But Vandy keeps the playoff hopes alive. While they're slim, the playoff hopes are still alive.
Agreed. You're a two-loss SEC school. You've given yourself a fight. I think we can
Yep.
all agree there. Wisconsin takes down Washington in another ugly game. Wisconsin played football like they didn't want to win this game, and they
Yes.
somehow did.
Yeah. Austin, I just want you, I did this similar thing. Would you look in the stats at Wisconsin's leading passer for this game?
24 yards.
That would be their punter. Their punter was the leading passer for Wisconsin in a game where they upset 23rd ranked Washington. Total passing yards for Wisconsin on the day, 6 of 18 for 48 yards. The punter literally accounted for 50% of their passing yards. And they won this game. The main thing, the defense got after Damon Williams. Damon Williams didn't have a good game. They shut down the Washington offense, which is something not many people have been able to do. Only Ohio State had been able to do. Not even Illinois with a good defense could do. And then their offense just had to capitalize where they didn't pass the ball until they literally had to. And Washington had a hard time stopping the run there, led to getting some field goals. They got the interception, which ultimately led to a touchdown, or they got the fumble that ultimately led to a touchdown in the fourth. But, this comes a week after all the commitment that Wisconsin said, like, hey, Luke Fickell's going to be here next year. We're trusting in you. And then to get a win like this, no matter how ugly it is with the punter leading, I'm sure the Wisconsin fans are like, I don't care. I'll take it. And for Washington, it's a game where this is still a young team and they can learn from. Again, like I said, this is a team to me that just screamed 9-3 in the preseason. And then next year is like, hey, this could be a big year for them.
Yeah, I think my biggest thing and my only big complaint here is that I think Washington was a good team. And I thought it was fun to kind of see their inclusion in the college football playoff. But I think this week we saw, while maybe that was a little bit premature.
Yes.
I
Yes.
don't necessarily think they're a top 25 team. I didn't last week, which I would have said had we been able to come on here and talk about it. So I don't want to sound like the guy who's, trying to get it right now. Obviously wasn't able to say my piece then, but
Right.
I think they're a good team. I definitely think they're a top 30 team in the country. But yeah, I think it was a little bit premature. Like you said, still a kind of young team. But then we got a pair of upsets in the ACC here. Cal and Wake Forest, two good 6-win teams in the ACC. Take down Louisville, take down Virginia, and now, hey, Pitt has a shot at the ACC championship.
Yeah, I'll talk about the games really quick. But yeah, this ACC just got a whole lot more interesting this past weekend. Wake Forest and Virginia. Main takeaway for this one, Chandler Morris got injured in this game halfway through. That really kind of hurt the chances for
Yeah.
Virginia's offense. They kind of had to go one-dimensional, and that ultimately led to them losing. But I want to give Wake Forest credit. And Jack Dickert, remember, he was at Washington State in the past couple of years. What he did there, turned them around, comes to Wake Forest, and has got them bowl eligible in year one. So ton of credit there. I give him a ton of credit in that one. And then with Louisville and California, Austin, it happened again where everything's in front of Louisville. You win your games. It's right there in front of you. Just don't screw up these games you should win. And then sure enough, you get against Cal late in the game. Jaron Kiawe Sangapalatelli. Yes, I practiced that name in the mirror in case you were wondering. He had a pretty solid game. He's looked really good. I don't know if he'll be at Cal next year, but he was great receiving. Jacob DeJesus, their wide receiver, who was one of my players of the week, and it was great receiving. And then Louisville got to overtime, and I'm like, okay, here's your chance to show up. Louisville gets held to 3 and out. And then on 4th and goal, all they did, California did with Jesus, was run that play Alabama did to beat Auburn in the Iron Bowl a few years ago, where it's just the fake
Yeah.
zig in and then cut back out, easy touchdown. Happy for Cal because this is a team that has had a lot of close calls this year where they could really be a team that maybe could be a surprise in the ACC. But Louisville didn't get none, and now, yeah, this ACC gets really interesting. Georgia Tech, Virginia, Pitt, SMU, and Duke all with one conference loss. Um, and I looked up the tiebreakers. As of right now, it is currently a three-way tie between Georgia Tech and Virginia and Pittsburgh. But if it ended today, Georgia Tech and Virginia would go to the ACC championship if the season ended today. But that obviously won't be the case because let's remember, Georgia Tech and Pittsburgh play next week. So that will take care of itself in the ACC next week. Yeah, ACC play, going to be very interesting. And when we get to the college football playoff rankings, I'll talk more about that because it got very interesting in multiple other factors.
Yeah, agreed. Final game we're going to touch on here, a battle in the American. Like you said, these teams might just beat each other up. Tulane takes down Memphis 38-32. What a gut punch for the Memphis Tigers. This was not the result. Look, let's be honest, neither team could afford to lose this game,
Right.
but somebody has to lose this game, and it was going to be an absolute gut punch for that team because it really puts you in a tough spot as far as the American and the college football playoff are concerned.
Yeah, Tulane just got out from the jump. I mean, they jumped on them quickly, especially in that second quarter, had the 38-17 lead early on in the third, and you thought, man, there's no way they come back. And then Memphis, despite all that, comes back, makes it a one-score game. But the Tulane defense got the stop late in the game that ultimately hurt them. But yeah, you talked about with Memphis, this wouldn't be that big of a deal if you didn't lose to UAB. If you don't lose to UAB, then this is a different story we're talking about here with this
Agreed.
American Conference and what it is. But ultimately, losing now, forget about conference chances, forget about playoff chances. Those are dead. Those are done. Those thoughts are just no more. Now, in the driver's seat is South Florida, who is a team that we know has plenty of quality wins on their resume that help them. But obviously, Navy's still there. Even though they lost to Notre Dame this past Saturday, they're 5-1. Now, those two play each other this weekend, so obviously that's a game we're going to talk more about. But you also have Tulane, North Texas, and then there's one don't want you to forget about. East Carolina's 4-1 in conference play. East Carolina's 4-1, nearly beat Tulane, play Memphis this weekend, and UTSA and FAU. So if these other teams just beat each other up, who knows? East Carolina might be the team that sneaks into that American Conference Championship. But yeah, gut punch for Memphis after gaining some life back after beating USF.
Yeah, that was tough. Let's go ahead and take it to our teams and players of the week. Starting off with our top 5 teams of the week. Where do you stand?
So my top 5 teams went a little bit wild with this one. Had some fun with it. Number 5, I had Wisconsin. If you can win a game with your punter being the leading passer, you deserve, I think, to be in the top 5 because that's just a feat that not many people can do. Number 4, had to get California in there. Great win on the road. That's something really talking about with these games. Wake Forest is number 3 for me. Both these teams won those ranked matchups on the road in conference play. Austin, something else that's truly impressive there. Both teams, very impressive wins on the road. Great defensive stand and then a great touchdown for Cal. Number 2, though, I got UConn. 7-3 on the year, beat Duke on Saturday. And man, the turnaround Jim Mora's done, I know there's going to be other coaches that get chances. How has no one looked at him and what he's done for UConn football in the recent years? Because let's remember, like 2018, 2019, they were thinking of getting rid of this program. They were like,
Yep.
we don't need a football program. And now he's got it to where they're selling out the stadium in November. They're 7-3 right now. They're undefeated in games where they don't lose in overtime. All 3 of their losses have been in overtime. So they deserve some credit. And number 1 in what was the game of the year, those of y'all who follow us on socials, my bet of the week was Sam Houston plus 20.5 against Oregon State in the most disgusting game of the year. Was outgained by 300 plus yards. Oregon State did against Sam Houston, and they doubled them in first downs. Yet Sam Houston still got the win, their first win of the year in FBS. And now only one winless team remains, Austin, and that is the UMass Minutemen, who play tonight, actually, the night we're recording this.
They do. So we'll see. Can they break the winless streak? They're at home. They're hosting Northern
Let's
Illinois. It's
hope.
possible. Um, my top five teams at number five, and I'll go ahead with number four as well. Oregon at number five, Iowa State at number four. And look, I was impressed by the resilience and kind of these gritty games. Not the prettiest games, both close finishes for these teams to go out and get a victory. At number three, like you said, punter's your leading passer. Get Wisconsin on this list. Like you said, after they kind of doubled down and said, nope, Luke Fickle will be back next year to go out and get a win. I think that maybe gives people a little bit more confidence. Then at number two, I went with Wake Forest. I think this is a pretty good Wake Forest team. Me and you have both enjoyed watching and talking about this year. For them to go out and get a ranked win, help put a little bit of respect on their name. I'm sure they're going to love and enjoy that. And then at number one, I went with Texas Tech. I know it wasn't the prettiest game, and I know it was at home and kind of a blowout. But look, you win the top 10 matchup. You get yourself in the driver's seat in this Big 12 conference. That's something to feel good about. I like Texas Tech's performance in this game. On Instagram, we had Sam Houston, UConn, Texas Tech, Wake Forest, and Wisconsin all getting votes. On Twitter, we had Sam Houston, UConn, Texas Tech, and Wisconsin getting votes. Votes everywhere, points everywhere. But our winner by a hair, Sam Houston State, team of the week.
Woo! Yes. First win of the year and our team of the week. Beautiful. I love to see it. Love to see it. Shout out to the Bearcats. Was an ugly win, but I was there for it. And my bet of the week winner. So shout out you guys. Thank you.
You'll love to see it. Now let's get into those top five players of the week.
Yeah. So number five, he was going to be on the list just for making the catch. Omar Cooper from Indiana. I mean, one of the greatest catches I've ever seen. Had to give him credit. Number four, I got Philip Dunham, the corner from UCF. Even though they lost to Houston on Friday night, man had 3 interceptions in the game for UCF. So give him credit, including one that got returned for a pick 6. So pretty good game. People didn't care about it as much, though, because they lost. So I want to show him some love. Number 3, I had the wide receiver from Cal, Jacob De Jesus, caught the game-winning touchdown, 155 yards receiving. He had a really good performance for them in their win, so I wanted to show him some love. That's my next one. Y'all know him. My quarterback for my group of 5 team that I've been rooting for this year, Byron Brown at South Florida, dominated for them against UTSA. Just dominated, whether it's by air or by the ground. It really didn't matter in this game. He was just flat out kicking UTSA's butt in this game. Trying to pull up the stats. Stats aren't wanting to load for some reason on it. There we go. 239 yards, 2 touchdowns on 14 of 15 passing. I mean, I think that's something that's impressive, along with 100 yards rushing and a touchdown there. But number one is a guy who I think I remember a couple weeks ago, you brought up his stat. If I remember correctly, whenever we were talking about UConn, and that's their quarterback here, Joe Fagnano. Still, no interceptions thrown this year, 25 touchdowns, 0 interceptions. And then on Saturday against Duke, had a great game where he threw for 300-plus yards, 3 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, 27-39. I wanted to show him some love because, I mean, to get to this point in the year, 25 touchdowns, 0 interceptions, that's not an easy thing to do. That's not easy at all. So I had to give him credit.
Yeah, I'm glad you put him on your list because he was very, very narrowly on mine. You know, like you said, I brought up the stat. I've been keeping a very close eye on him. So, yes, he was almost on my list, but I wanted to shout out some other great quarterback performances that I saw this week. You'll notice a trend for 5 through 2 that they're all quarterback. But at number 5, I went with Tucker Gleason. out of Toledo. This is a guy we talked a little bit about last year. I think he made a
Yeah.
couple lists last year. But 309 yards, 2 passing touchdowns. Did a little damage on the ground, too. Not huge rushing yard numbers, but I believe 1 or 2 rushing touchdowns as well. 42-3 rout of Northern Illinois. And for a Toledo team, not necessarily having the season we usually expect from Toledo, but Tucker Gleason certainly having a huge game. Then, of course, in the American game we just talked about, Jake Retzlaff, the quarterback at Tulane. He is really having an unbelievable season for them. And for 332 yards, 3 touchdowns, also punched in a rushing touchdown in a big victory over Memphis in that American Conference. Had to give some love there. Then at number 3, you just talked about him. Byram Brown is a sensation. This guy has been a treat to watch all season long. Last year didn't really have as big of a season as we thought he might after the way he played in that Alabama game 2 years ago.
Yep.
And it was like, this is a guy to keep an eye out on. But look, he's come through. He shined. This season, he's had a big season, and he has USF on track to make this college football playoff if they can continue the success. At number 2, a Bull Take podcast favorite, Diego Pavia, 377
Yeah.
yards through the air, 3 passing touchdowns, and then 112 yards on the ground on 18 attempts and 1 rushing touchdown to get a big-time victory. Keep yourselves, like you said, in that college football playoff race. But at number 1, look, I'm purely ignoring the stats. I'm purely going for one of the greatest plays I've seen this college football season. At number 1, I went with Omar Cooper Jr. Man, this was a sensational catch. Truly, if you were watching this game, it caught your attention when they're like going to review.
Yeah.
Because, like you said, your reaction was perfect. Where you're like, oh, look, his right foot's down. Wait a minute, there's something to watch here, and there was. That's really how it was. You're like, no, he's out until you see what happened. So you see the left foot go down first in bounds. You're just in denial. So it was an awesome performance, awesome catch. I mean, talk about a game on the line moment. It doesn't get much more clutch than that.
Yeah.
But when we go to social media here, both sites, funny enough, the vote disparities are kind of different. Like where people voted is different and how many people voted for each person, but somehow we still get on both social media sites, Fagano, Brown, and Cooper getting votes on both sides, both social media sites. So even though it's in different numbers in different ways, they get extra votes that way. But so it just comes down to who's on both lists, who's higher on these lists. And that leaves a guy who I thought would have had a player of the week by now. I had to double check a couple times to make sure he didn't. Byram Brown is our player of the week.
Wow. There we go. I love it. I love it for him. Again, I'm happy to see him finally playing up to that potential we thought last year he would do. I mean, I'm reaching this year. It's just funny. I was just thinking you talked about with the he's out, right? It made me think of the scene from, The Dark Knight where he's like, he's out, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, just I was like, where did you learn to watch? What are you talking about?
Yeah.
He clearly got in there. So
exactly.
But great for Byron Brown. Great for all of our winners so far this year. Again, I have no idea who's going to win it, but if South Florida makes a run in the playoff, he might be someone we might see a lot more to finish the season.
Yeah, I would agree. I think he's been on a couple lists. He's definitely put himself in a good spot for the rest of this season. Let's take it over now to the college football playoff rankings. The second college football playoff rankings for us. It'll be the first time discussing it. And look, right away, I'm going to say one thing that I like as we get into it. I like that the College Football Playoff Committee is not nearly as fickle as the AP poll.
Yeah.
And what I mean by that is Ohio State obviously stays at number 1, and number 2 is Indiana. AP poll would have had Indiana dropping a couple spots after their performance against Penn State, but hey, a win's a win. At number 3, Texas A&M. Number 4, Alabama. Number 5, Georgia. 6, Texas Tech. 7, Ole Miss. 8, Oregon. 9, Notre Dame. And 10, Texas. Thoughts on this top 10?
Well, my main takeaway is this is just you imagine a couple weeks ago when we were sitting there being like, man, Texas is so cooked. And now they're in the
Yeah.
top 10 where they're sitting at where they could go 9-3 and we're looking at them getting in. So that's just bizarre. We're thinking of where we were a couple weeks ago. So my main takeaway is Texas Tech. I'm going to say something that, they don't want to hear because, it's SEC or Big Ten at the top. They have a real case to be a top 5 team. They beat top ranked BYU by 22. They beat Utah by 24, beat 8-2 Houston by 24, and their only loss came on the road in the final minute with their backup quarterback. So, I mean, don't get me wrong, number 6 is a fine ranking, and I get maybe why you have Georgia, Bama, A&M, all of them ahead of them. But I think Texas Tech makes a fairly strong argument to be a top 5 team. And who knows how it works out for these top 5, they might be it by the end of the season.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I think they've got a real case. I think they're a talented team, like you said. Only loss on the road with your starting quarterback injured. Kind of a tough situation to be in. But I want to say this: look, it is what a world. Texas is in the top 10. Get real. I just think get real. When has this team looked like a top
Yeah,
10 team and like an actual
it's
meaningful
valid.
game? Um,
We're going to find out
I
this
think
Saturday. We're going to find out this
yeah,
Saturday.
we certainly will. And look, I'm not a guy that wants to be a hater. I really have wanted so bad for Arch Manning to be good because I feel like there's so many people that want him to be bad because he's a Manning, because he was highly recruited, because he plays at Texas. But just get real. OU has a better resume. BYU has a better. Their only loss of the season is to the number 6 team in the Bloody Nation in Lubbock. What are we talking about? I just think it's just absolute lunacy. Um, I Notre Dame, maybe I could see an argument. Look, if it means Notre Dame's not a top 10 team to also have Texas outside of the top 10, I'd take it because I think just as well as Notre Dame's 2 losses are in their 2 biggest games of the season. Um, but I don't know. Me personally, I do not get it. Um, I just think it's unfair. I think it's purely
I
Texas.
think that's very valid. I think that's very valid because I mean, their biggest landmark was beating Vanderbilt, which I will give them credit. They handled Vanderbilt
They
for
did.
like 3/4 of that game. They dominated them. Don't get me wrong there. Um, but I mean, besides that, a comeback win against Mississippi State, whose one win is against Arkansas in SEC play, struggling on the road against Kentucky, who's really not won a lot in SEC play. Like it
I'm
really,
just
the
gonna
only thing
say
they have is
this.
that Vandy game. That's the really only thing that in Oklahoma. But John Mateer's not even close to 100% there. That's the other thing.
If beating Vandy is worth more than losing the games that they've lost, how is Vandy not a top 10 team? How is that
That's
a
a very
top
valid
10
argument.
caliber win, but Vandy's not a top 10 team? That's my and same thing with OU. I guess OU's 11. But if those are the 2 wins we're looking at, and yes, they are their best wins of the season. They are good wins. But if that's enough to propel you past everything else that's happened this season for Texas and all the doubt and all the questions that have come from the media and everywhere, if that's enough, then we have got to rank OU and Vandy higher.
Yeah.
That's the logic to me
I mean, and
personally.
hey, let's not forget they lost to a Florida on the road, a 3-6 Florida team currently. Let's not forget how ugly that loss was in that game. So let's not forget that.
Exactly. If a win against Vandy and a win against OU, if that's worth that much to outweigh a very bad loss, then let's get Vandy back in the top
Mm-hmm.
10. That's my personal opinion. But let's talk about the next 5. We've got OU at 11, BYU at 12, Utah at 13, Vandy at 14, and Miami at 15. And by the way, what a slide by Vandy. Typical Mario Cristobal finish for this team so far.
Yeah. But as we'll get to whenever when we go through all the rankings and I have what the bracket would look like. Season ended today. Miami's in the playoff. They're the highest ranked ACC team, but they would get that spot in the college football playoff if the season ended today.
Yeah.
So Let's say that like it is. Really, I have no issue with any of these. The only one, if I have anything, is uh, I kind of thought maybe Utah would move up a little bit, but I do kind of respect keeping BYU ahead of Utah because, well, head to head should matter there. So,
Agreed.
really, not many issues with 11 through 15.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think this is a little bit better done, except for obviously my little bit previous gripe.
Right.
Then at number 16, we have Georgia Tech moving up a spot. USC at 17, Michigan at 18, 19, Virginia, and 20, Louisville. This is where our sad ACC schools that were doing so well have slidden down to.
Yeah. Yeah, they've taken a bit of a tumble. But like I said, for Virginia, everything's still in front of them. So Virginia could still win out in the regular season, win the conference championship, they'll still get in, because unlike Louisville and, Miami, the only other one that can compete with them is Georgia Tech, which, I mean, it ultimately confirms now that the ACC championship, if it is those two teams, is basically a play-in game. Winner gets in the playoff, losers, sorry, you're not getting in. But really, no issue with these rankings. It's just interesting to think about. Again, I kind of hinted at with USC a couple weeks ago. They're not out of the playoff race either. Neither is Michigan. I'm not ruling Michigan out yet. They play Northwestern, Maryland, and then again the Ohio State game end of the year. If they beat Ohio State again, go on the road and do something that not many people have even come close to doing this year, and they go 10-2, but don't make the Big Ten championship, they deserve an argument.
Yeah, that's fair. So let's get to those last couple teams here. At number 21, the Iowa Hawkeyes dropping a few spots. Pitt's up to 22. Tennessee up to 23. Also, shout out to the college football playoff for taking a stand and putting Virginia at the bottom of the or putting Tennessee at the bottom of the top 25. We didn't get to talk about it last week, but obviously they were 25 last week, up to 23 this week. Way to take a stand against Tennessee, who I think maybe is getting a little too highly rated in the AP poll
Yeah.
in a few weeks for being a three-loss school. No offense to Tennessee, not a Tennessee hater, but I'm
Yeah.
glad that they're a little bit lower. Then USF enters the poll at 24, and at 25, we have Cincinnati. My biggest gripe with the last college football playoff was that there was no group of five representation whatsoever
Right.
because
Yeah.
there are top 20, top 35 caliber, um, just American teams. And so for not a single one of them to have been represented in the last college football playoff, I think was a grave and gross kind of oversight. And I'm glad that they were able to kind of reframe and put USF into here. But I still feel like that was kind of a huge oversight.
Yeah. My only issue here is with talking about those three lost teams in Iowa and Tennessee, I will say. Um, I don't really understand why Iowa and Tennessee are ranked. I understand Iowa being ranked last week. Like, I didn't have an issue with Iowa being ranked. I thought 20 was a little bit higher than I thought they would actually be. Um, but I don't get why they're ranked, yet SMU isn't, who has a win over a top 15 Miami team, and all of a sudden they can't crack the top 25. But Tennessee and Iowa, who, I mean, what are their best wins this year? I mean, neither of them really. Tennessee's best wins, Mississippi State. Like,
Which is getting worse and worse by the week right now.
and then with Iowa, man, I'm trying to think. I'd have to go back and look at Iowa's schedule to really double check. But I mean, the only things they can put on their resume are like that blowout win against Minnesota is probably their best win, which is a okay team, but it's not like a top 15 team like SMU. So
That's
that's really
true.
my only complaint with this bottom half. It's just I think SMU should be ranked. But Austin, I want to throw a curveball at you. So talking about what the playoff would look like if this bracket was what it would be today. First round matchups. Number 5, Georgia would host South Florida, the number 12 seed. Number 8, Oregon would host number 9, Notre Dame. I know where game day would go if that was the case. Number 6, Texas Tech would play number 11, Miami, with being the highest ranked team in the conference as of right now. Then number 10, Texas would play at 7, Ole Miss. And then the byes would be Ohio State 1, Indiana 2, A&M 3, Bama 4. Um, Here's my question, though, Austin. My chaos scenario that I heard Reese Davis talk about a little bit. What if Duke wins the ACC at 8-4?
That would be not
But
good.
and James Madison and South Florida both win their conferences. Because remember, the rule isn't the 4 Power 4 conferences get an automatic bid. It's the 5 highest ranked conference champions. And South Florida for sure would be ranked ahead of Duke if that was the case. And I personally think James Madison would be ranked ahead of Duke if that's the case, if they won out their games and won their conferences. So there's a scenario where if Duke wins the conference, there could be no ACC representation at all in this playoff.
Yeah, I mean, it would depend. I think me personally, you couldn't rank an AC. You just couldn't rank an ACC team if that happened. It's either Duke or it's nobody. It's Duke and somebody else, or it's Duke and no, or it's no Duke, nobody. My only excuse would be if it's say you get SMU and Duke are playing, and then maybe Miami's ranked at 14 or 15 or
Right.
something. And then, well, I guess technically they'd have to be ranked inside the top 12 to have any chance
Yeah.
on
Yeah.
the outside. But then I can maybe see a world where SMU and Duke are maybe not ranked, or, SMU's just my filler team. Could be Georgia Tech, could be Virginia, could be Louisville,
Right.
whoever. And because obviously whoever they play in the conference championship probably ranked, but if they lose, they don't count anymore because you lost the conference championship. I definitely don't think you get a say. So then maybe if like a Miami or somebody is sitting like right at 11 or 12, you could take an ACC school. But I think that would be such a bad look.
And it would be a look where everyone's like, oh, of course they have to include one from each power conference. That's exactly
Yeah.
what it would look like.
Yeah, that's what it would look like. And I think it would cause problems inside of the ACC. I
Mm-hmm.
think Duke would have a huge grievance with the conference. Like, we won, and Miami, who didn't get to play on championship. Again, Miami doesn't play on championships Saturday. Why do they have a chance to make the college football playoff? It
Right.
would kind of be the argument there.
Yeah, but I mean that's just a wild chaos because, like I said, Duke's 5-4, but one conference loss. Let's not forget one. They play Virginia this weekend, and then 2 more ACC opponents where they could finish with only one conference loss. I don't know what the tiebreakers would go to there, depending on other scenarios, but that's a scenario where if it happens, things could get really interesting with who gets that automatic bids into the playoff. It could get really interesting.
Do you think the ACC might pay Duke to take a dive in the conference championship? Be like, hey, lose this game because it's going to be so bad for the conference.
Lose this game. Here's what we'll give you.
Yeah.
Extra home game for basketball. Take it.
Yeah. We'll give you a conference championship in basketball because nobody will blink an eye if you win the
Yeah.
conference championship in basketball. Just don't win the conference championship in football.
Oh,
Um, but let's get into some of our game previews for this upcoming week. And the first one I want to hit you with Wisconsin versus Indiana. What? Wisconsin, Indiana? Wisconsin just won a ranked game, and Indiana just played a close game with Penn State. It is in Indiana. I don't think it'll be that close, but I think it warrants just a little bit of a discussion here. What are your thoughts maybe on these two teams? Maybe new life in Wisconsin now that Fickle knows he's got another year. He's like
maybe
anti-Billy
so.
Napier.
Maybe is this the new Billy Napier? Is
No,
Luke
he's like
Fickell
the
the new Billy
opposite, though.
Napier?
He has to know that he has a job next week. Otherwise, he can't win a game.
See,
He
now with
has
that
to know.
scenario, I think Indiana covers the 29.5 point spread we're looking at here with that.
Yeah.
But no, very simple talking about the game. 2 solid defensive units. If Wisconsin has success throwing the ball, I might be like, oh, let me sit up in my seat a little bit. This is, but until I see it like on the field on Saturday, I'm not gonna believe it, especially after the stats I saw from the Washington game. My gosh, like I seriously can't believe they won that game with their punter being the leading passer. But until I see them have a solid, consistent passing game, I'm not going to blink an eye at it. But I mean, it's very valid. Their defense played really solid and got after Damon Williams. Maybe they can get some pressure on Mendoza and keep this closer than people think.
Yeah, I'll be interested to see kind of how the game goes down, but I'm with you. They're gonna have you can't have 24 passing yards to your punter be your leading passer. It's gonna have to be a little bit more than that. Um, then we've got Duke versus Virginia. Look, and you just talked about it. Chaos scenario. Duke only the one conference loss. Virginia just coming off of a loss. We know this Duke team's capable. Virginia, will they get Chandler Morris back? If they get Chandler Morris back, are they going to be rattled by this loss? This game has a lot more pressure for Virginia. Had they won last week, you'd have that ACC loss you could afford this week. But you
Yeah.
can't now. This is where it gets dicey, especially. And like you said, Duke's got to win out if they want any chance of the conference championship. So they're going to bring their best. They'd love to play for a conference championship in the ACC.
Yeah, I did look up because I was curious. He was a participant in practice. He was a limited participant in practice. So it's kind of 50-50
Close.
if he's going to play, which does favor Duke in the matchup. Again, I think two solid defensive units. I don't think we give Manny Diaz enough credit for what he's done at Duke to fill in after what Mike Elko did in his short time there and have what happened last year, successful year last year, now followed up with a winning record this year in a time when you don't think of Duke football having consistency being a top program. I give him a ton of credit there. But I'm very curious if Chandler Morris doesn't play, then Virginia's defense is going to have to play lights out against Darian Mensah, who's been really impressive this season at Duke. The big thing though is I'm curious what this Duke offense or this Duke defense can do. Had a struggle against that UConn offense last week. The defenses will be the tell in this game, I think. I think the defenses need to show up. This will probably, to me, be a lower scoring game, especially if Chandler Morris doesn't play. But yeah, winner of this one. Crazy it is to believe. I don't think anyone thought back at the start of the season that on November 15th, the matchup between Virginia and Duke would be this pivotal in football for who's going to play in the ACC championship. Yeah, here we are.
Yeah, if you were like, hey, big Duke Virginia game, November 15th, I'd say basketball, it's that
Yeah.
serious already?
I'd be like, man, they're already doing conference matchups that early in November? That's crazy.
Yeah. Then I've got Utah versus Baylor here. Look, Utah, number 13 team in the nation. Looks like a good, talented squad. But look, this Baylor offense surely can't be, undervalued here, especially in a game in Waco. What do you think might happen in this one?
Well, very simply, this Baylor needs to make it a shootout, like usual this season. That's been the case for them. Make it a shootout. I think being a home primetime game helps them a lot here. Very simple. If Baylor's defense can just slow down this Utah run game, they got a chance. But that's a big if because Baylor's defense really has not shown up this year, if I'm being honest. It has been just the offense that has shown up. So the main takeaway for me is pretty simple. The Baylor defense will decide this game. We know Baylor will probably put up 20, 30 points in the game that will give them a chance. But it'll come down to that Baylor defense. You don't even have to get stops. Force a couple turnovers. Play to strip the ball out of Devon Nampier's hands or Parker's hands. Get some interceptions. The defense has to make plays, whether it's forcing punts or getting turnovers. The Baylor defense will decide this game.
Completely agree. And the defense has not played like a Dave Aranda defense.
Yeah.
You'd think. Look, I'll say this. That's kind of been the one consistent the last few years for Dave Aranda is that the defense has been good. So for it to be playing this poorly, it's kind of been a surprise. And finally, TCU, BYU. TCU, look, they were in this race. I won't say they're completely out of it. It's going to be really tough to get anywhere near this Big 12 championship. But BYU also can't start to snowball here and get worse and worse and worse. They definitely need a big win this coming weekend.
Yeah, and they need to win to set up again that matchup. Cincinnati and BYU are both thinking we win this week. It's essentially a play-in game for the Big 12 championship next week between those two teams. Very simple here. TCU, another great offense, but this BYU defense has been pretty solid, especially in the turnover margins. They've done pretty good at takeaways. The only team they struggled with against that, Texas Tech. Look what happened there. But like I said pretty much last week, if BYU can have success running the ball offensively, I give them a good chance in this game because the defense will force the turnovers. Can they capitalize? And can Bear Bachmeier capitalize when needed to win this game? Plus, it's a night game at home. It's going to be really hard for me envisioning TCU going in there and winning. But if the BYU off defense is a bit sluggish after last week, they got a fair chance. I'm not never say never with it, but it's hard for me to envision BYU losing this game.
Yeah, I agree. Now let's get into these game picks. Got a couple for you. Start off with an easy one for me. Number 9, Notre Dame takes on number 22, Pitt. Pat Narduzzi says Notre Dame can win by 100 as long as we win the last two. I hope they do because this game means a lot more for Notre Dame than it does for Pitt. I'm going to take Notre Dame. I think they're the better team. I really do like Pitt, but I do not like them as much as Notre Dame. I think Notre Dame's really figured it out. It feels kind of like the same situation last year. Had the loss to Northern Illinois, and they kind of locked in that Purdue game, and they found their momentum and gone ever since. Lost the first two to start this game, but played Purdue, whooped Purdue, and since then this offense has looked a lot better, a lot more normal. I think Notre Dame wins this, and I might even go minus 12.5 for Notre Dame. I don't know if Pitt's going to be able to keep it particularly close.
Yeah, contemplating the over person, and I think this could be a potential shootout because I think the big thing that gives Pitt a chance, I've looked it up. It was shocking to me to believe, and I'm sure to many people whenever I say this, Pitt is number 3 against the run this year in college football. They're number 3 in the country. I thought that was very surprising whenever I looked up that stat. But
I
that's
didn't
the
know
big
that.
thing. Obviously, can you stop the two-headed monster running back for Notre Dame? If you can stop that, that gives you a chance in this game. If you can stop those two, it'll be like, okay. But then the big thing that worries me, though, is the true freshman quarterback. It's not his first career start. Mason Heinschel, I think is how you pronounce it. Don't look at me for your transcript guy. I'm not going to tell you how to pronounce it for sure. But with him being a true freshman, this is his first big game as a starter. It's really hard for me to pick Pitt to win this game. But again, if they can stop the run, and I heard there's a rumor that Desmond Reed might be back for Pitt in this game, which if he is, that's a big boost to help them. They can have some balance offensively, give them a chance, but I'll have to see it to believe it. I'm going to pick Notre Dame because I kind of what you said. This is big for Notre Dame. The remaining of their schedule, their final 2 games after this are games that will not give them a positive boost for the playoff. Just win those games. You better win those games. This is the last one that's like a bit of a resume setter. So I think Notre Dame will come ready to play and win the game.
Yeah. Let's get into our next game here. USC, Iowa, 17 versus 21. Iowa trying to cling on to this top 25. USC trying to keep themselves, like you said earlier, in the fight for maybe a Big Ten championship. It's not impossible. And maybe a shot at that college football playoff. But look, you got to have a win. It's at home. You're playing Iowa, and they played Oregon close. We saw a different side of this Iowa offense. You're going to have to bring your best in this one. Who do you got?
Well, let me say this. I remember all the people thinking, oh, it's Iowa only played close with Oregon because of the weather, and it was in Iowa. This is out in Southern California. Different story there. Looked at the forecast. Friday, all day, heavy rain in Los Angeles. Saturday, all day, heavy rain all day in Los Angeles. So don't tell me that. And then all of a sudden now you look at the weather for it. So pure and simple, if this is USC in the past, I would be worried because I'd say they can't match up with Iowa physically, and that really hurts their chances. But we've seen them against Michigan. They were able to match up physically and run the football. In their game against Nebraska, they were able to match up physically and run the football well. They weren't able to against Notre Dame. Different story there, I would say, though. But the one thing that's interesting, though, the weather wasn't great for that Notre Dame game, and USC had a lot of just dropped ball where they fumbled it a lot or dropped passes. Um, but I think with now that they can kind of match up physically with some of the teams in the Big Ten, I think they can win this game. I'm going to pick USC to win the game. I think Iowa keeps it close. It's a low scoring game, but I think USC's kind of built a lot better to run the football with success, and I think they can do it in this game.
Yeah, I like USC in this game too. I think they've got a lot more to play for. Like you said, I think they match up better this year than they have in the past, and that's going to help them out a little bit. I think they go out and they get the job done. Then we've got number 4 Alabama hosting number 11 Oklahoma. These big SEC games, what the conference is built on now.
Yep.
Uh, and who do you got in this one? Like you said earlier, John Mateer maybe not 100% healthy, and Alabama again on a roll. Ty Simpson looks good. Thoughts?
Oh man. Main takeaway for me for Oklahoma, you think prior to the Tennessee game, I think me and you both thought, oh, Alabama for sure wins this game for sure. But then the big thing that's helped Oklahoma the last couple of weeks, they are getting consistency running the football. That has helped them a lot better and do a lot better here. So if they can get consistency running the football, that changes the way this game is. I don't know if they will, though, against this Bama team. And John Mateer, I want to keep on believing he's eventually going to get back into that rhythm he was before the hand injury. But a broken bone in the hand is a broken bone in the hand. It's going to affect you for a good amount of time there. Plus, I know all the people want to be like, well, look at Oklahoma, one of the best rushing defenses in the country. Okay. Bama doesn't run the ball. So what the heck is that going to do to help you against Alabama on the road? Nothing. Nothing at all. If Bama had rushed the ball more and Bama was healthy and they were running the ball, then this is a different topic we're talking about. But because of that, and I still have my issues trusting in this Oklahoma secondary, I'm going to pick Alabama to win the game. I think they'll end up winning it by double digits. I just don't know if I can trust John Mateer throwing the ball enough still. He's not 100%. And if the passing defense is not there, they're going to have to rely on turnovers like they did against Tennessee. And Bama's been a lot more efficient offensively.
Yeah, everything about this game says I should take Alabama. I'm gonna pick Oklahoma though. I really want to
Ooh.
pick an upset week. And I think Bama's demise and Oklahoma's victory is like the most beneficial for me as an individual. So I'm going to take Oklahoma win this game purely off the vibe, purely off wanting to see them win. They've gotten consistency in the run game, like you said. It's going to be a tough game. Again, everything says that Oklahoma shouldn't win this game, so I'm going to tell you
Right.
they should. Oklahoma. Final game pick here. Number 10, Texas take on number 5, Georgia. You got.
Well, I'm trying to say this in the nicest way I can. Um, I just think pure and simple, Georgia's the better team in this matchup. Uh, really, the only thing that has me intrigued, if anything, is um, Arch Manning's looked kind of solid throwing the football the last couple of weeks. He's kind of built up some confidence, so maybe he's able to have more confidence playing the game. But I just want you to think, Austin, back in July when the Arch Manning hype was at its peak, you would have told me end of the year, Texas versus Georgia. I'd be like, which quarterback do you like more in the matchup? I think everyone would have said Arch Manning for sure over Gunnar Stockton. This year, Gunnar Stockton's been a lot more of a field general, been a lot more efficient than I think people, including myself, thought he was going to be. So I think that's the case. I think these are two solid defenses that could keep the game close and lower scoring. I'm going to trust in the quarterback, who I think's been the better one so far this year. And it's a home game at 9 in Athens. I'm going to pick the Georgia Bulldogs to win this game.
Yeah, look, I've been flat out unimpressed with Texas this year. Um, and like you said, this game is going to be in Athens. Georgia's having a good season. They put it together. Look, it's tough to play in Athens. I've been there. I've seen what it's like when they get loose in these big time top ranked matchups. So I'm going to take the Georgia Bulldogs here to get the job done and knock hopefully knock Texas out of the top
Yeah.
10. I guess I
Hey, and,
can't
and
speak.
another thing, this is Georgia's last SEC game of the year. This is their last SEC game. They got two non-conference games to end off their season with Charlotte and then obviously Georgia Tech. So this is their last chance to maybe kind of make an argument in SEC play. So yeah, this will be their last hope for it.
All righty, that does it for us here on the game picks. Last thing we've got for you, the bet of the week. Where are we leaning here?
So shout out Sam Houston last week. One of my proudest wins of the season. This week there was a couple I was considering, but at the end of the day, I kind of want to go with what I think what could be a surefire bet. So I'm going to do this. I don't know how it's only gone up and only that 5.5. I'm going to take Alabama minus 5.5 against Oklahoma. I just think Bama's clearly the better team right now. John Mateer's not 100%. I get they can run the ball. If they can get more consistency running the ball, then I might start to worry. But again, I just think right now with Bama at home and Oklahoma's John Mateer not being 100%, this pass defense still had me worried. I think Bama's going to win this game by more than 5 points. So I'm going to take Bama minus 5.5.
Fair enough. Look, I'm going to stay in the SEC with you. I'm going to go with a game that's close, big rivalry, no matter how good these teams are. It's always a close, fun, exciting game. And also, now both these teams have fired their head coaches. They're not really playing anything but pride in this game. I'm going to take Arkansas LSU over 56.5.
Hey, there we go. I like that. I like that pick. Give me yes. If I'm going to watch this game at 11:45 a.m. on Saturday, I want some fireworks. Give me some fireworks. One thing I will add in here though, that was almost my bet of the week. 10-0 Tennessee Tech is at Kentucky on Saturday.
Wow.
10-0 Tennessee Tech is at Kentucky Saturday. Just watch out for it, ladies and gentlemen. It's not my bet of the week. Just watch out for it.
Big things might be coming.
But I love these bets. Yeah, stick it in the SEC. Why not? We haven't done SEC bets in a hot minute.
I'm with you there. But with all that being said, that's going to do it for us here at the Bold Take Podcast. We've got an NFL episode coming out soon. We'll be recording it here in just a minute. So with that being said, I'm Austin Hill. That's Austin Later, and we want to thank you for listening.